Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Looky here, folks, from a website called DC Whispers, the headline, members of Congress and media stunned that Trump is still standing and fighting back. By the way, did you see economic growth? 3.3%. Did I not tell you yesterday it was going to exceed 3%? And that's just the tip of the iceberg of the great economic news. So members of Congress and media stunned that Trump is still standing and fighting back. Robin Roberts on Good Morning America today was in tears. Why does Trump still have his job and all of us are losing ours? And then Wolf blitzed over on CNN. Have Democrats lost the moral high ground on sexual harassment? I am going to explain all of this. I'm going to answer every question anybody has about this today. And as an added bonus, I'm going to keep adding to the reasons for getting rid of net neutrality. We're going to continue the burial process of Pocahontas and her little financial bureau here that they tried to set up as a private little money laundering operation. And, of course, the sad tale of what happened at NBC today with Matt Lauer. The latest details on the Matt Lauer situation. These things have a lifespan. Oh, my God, we didn't know. Oh, no. This just came out of the blue. We didn't know. And then we start hearing from the people who knew. Well, actually, a lot of people knew about this for a long time. Began to trickle out in various tweets and blog posts. And it turns out a lot of people knew about this. For a long time, the particular complaint against Matt Lauer is 3 years old, goes back to the Sochi Olympics. According to the New York Post, page 6, the sexual misconduct allegations against Matt Lauer go back to the Sochi Winter Olympics in 2014. If that's true, it means that NBC sat on this for 3 years. They're claiming they only found out about it on Monday, which is 2 days ago. But it happened 3 years ago. That's even longer than NBC sat on Juanita Broderick's rape allegation against Bill Clinton. Page 6, this is worse yet. Page 6 says that Matt Lauer's firing only came on Tuesday because of rumors that several news outlets were working on stories about Matt Lauer's alleged sexual misconduct. The New York Times is working on one. And there were a couple of other news organizations that were sniffing around this. In fact, according to CNN, just see CNN. CNN boycotting the White House media Christmas party. You see Sarah Huckabee Sanders' tweet? Happy holidays. There's at least some good news. CNN's not showing up at our party. Do you not love this? So here's CNN all over their high horse. Well, harumph, harumph. Because of the mistreatment of our brave journalists the world over. We are not going to attend the White House Christmas party on Friday night. Sarah Sanders, good. We'll miss you. They are gobsmacked. They don't know what hit them. They did think they would have dispatched Trump by now. They thought they'd have dispatched with Pence by now. They thought by now that by hook and crook of the Constitution, they'd have gotten Hillary back in there. Or crazy Bernie. They are gobsmacked, folks. Anyway, CNN says that reporters for the New York Times have been investigating Matt Lauer for several weeks. So the implication is that NBC might have covered up for Matt Lauer forever if it weren't for these other investigations. That's not my implication. Excuse me, that's not my inference. That is from page 6. And CNN claiming that the timetable here was moved up by NBC because they found out other news organizations were looking into this. Now, I want to take you back, folks. I'm going to explain some things here. Take you back to the Access Hollywood video that was released it was sometime in October 2016. And I'm sure you all remember this. Now, this comes under the rubric here, members of Congress and media stunned that Trump is still standing and fighting back. And I'm telling you that they are being truthful when they admit to this. And it's not just members of Congress media, it's Republicans. And it is conservative, never Trump media types. Believe me, the entirety of the Washington establishment literally is in a state of stunned disbelief over the fact they have, not only have they not gotten rid of Trump, they haven't dented him. When you get right down to it, they haven't even put a dent in him. He's not just still standing, he's dominating. It's not that he's just barely hanging on and teetering on the edge. He is dominating. He is authoring, if you will, the daily narrative. He is totally controlling the media, whether they know it or not. And one of the reasons that they're shocked is because they were convinced that the Access Hollywood video back in 2016, back in October, would spell the end of Donald Trump, and it didn't. Now, I want to play for you what I said about this back then. This serves a dual purpose. It will remind you, but will also illustrate for you my prescience and complete understanding of the lay of the land, because there is something that the swamp dwellers, the establishment, the media, never Trumpers, Republican and Democrat alike, something that they still do not understand about their own country, something they still do not understand about the people who voted for and continue to back up and support Donald Trump, something they still do not understand. I've explained it numerous times, and I'm going to explain it again. But first, here is an audio recap of me, October 10th, 2016. This is our first show after the NBC Access Hollywood video was released. And that's the Billy Bush video where Trump and Billy Bush are chatting with one another about the power of celebrities and what that power allows celebrities to do with women. And that's the video that had the Trump comment, yeah, I like to grab their, and that just sent shocks of outrage and disbelief, reverberating, ricocheting throughout every sector of the drive-by media, and they thought Trump was toast. And I dare say many in the Trump campaign probably thought he was toast. I want to admit something here, but first, here's the audio of what was said by me on this program. Listen to all of it. This whole release of that tape, and I'm not excusing what's on it, but he's not the only person to ever speak this way. He's not the only person to ever seek office. He may have said these things, but the Democrats have nominated and elected and celebrated people who do these things. And where is the outrage over it? I find it ironic that the Democrat Party wants to throw down the morality card, the Democrat Party, which is responsible for the dissolution of morality in this country, the Democrat Party, which is for all these progressive new attitudes in our culture, and now all of a sudden acting like a bunch of prudes, acting like, oh my God, I have never been this outraged. Oh, this is just beyond the pale. These are the architects of this kind of stuff. If Trump were a Democrat, they'd be covering it up and privately inviting him to parties and yucking it up. But the reason this happened, and it's going to happen again, they can't afford. Folks, this is what it looks like. I kept telling people over the weekend when people were asking my opinion on it, I said, this is what it looks like when you take on the establishment. This is exactly what it looks like. It isn't going to be pretty. I'll tell you something. I may have told you that I did this on a previous occasion, but I don't remember. I seldom, in fact, I can count on one hand the number of times I have called a campaign or a candidate in the midst of a campaign to either react or even request an interview. I just don't do it. It's not an active thing. It's something in myself. I just don't do it. It's not my bailiwick. It's not my level of expertise. I don't pretend to know how that business operates, but this time I did. This time I called and I emailed people in the Trump campaign. I'm not going to tell you who, because that doesn't matter. What I told them is what matters. And I said, whatever you do, do not overreact and grovel. Do not fall prey to this. Do not go on the defensive because of this. I said, the one thing that you may not understand, and I'm telling them in the Trump campaign, the American people are fed up. Remember, this was an October surprise. This tape had been in possession of people for years. The Washington Post actually revealed this tape. They're the ones that released it. NBC had been sitting on it for a while. That everybody knew about this, and nobody had cared, and nobody had released it, and nobody had even talked about it because there was no way that it was useful for them in damaging Trump. But now all of a sudden, he's running for president, and this is what they do. In fact, this is what the Democrats primarily do. The Republicans also engage in their own versions of October surprises. But I told the Trump people, your voters are not going to abandon Donald Trump over this. What you need to know is that Trump voters are fed up with this kind of stuff determining who wins and who loses elections. I said, what you need to know, and never forget, and I'm sure they did know it. I was not taking any chances. I wanted to make sure, but I'm sure they got it. Your voters are supporting you because of serious things and issues in this country. Your voters think we're down to the last chance. Your voters think that this country is on the precipice of being transformed into something it was never intended to be. And Donald Trump stands as the one guy who can stop it. And his voters are not going to abandon him over this. They're not going to abandon him over tweets. They're not going to abandon him over the traditional and typical ways that Democrats and the media try to take out and destroy Republican candidates. So don't think that you're in trouble with your own voters over this. And I made a point of saying it's not that they don't care, and it's not that they're not going to, have second thoughts about you, but they're not going to let this kind of thing, this kind of typical political last-minute trick, they're not going to let it work this time. They're fed up with it. And I told them to be confident that they're not going to lose any support from their base because of this. And the reason I went out of my, well, it wasn't out of my way. The reason I made the point is because it was an earth-shattering thing, and it's the kind of thing that can trip up a campaign and cause defections and lack of confidence or loss of confidence. And I wanted to make sure that didn't happen. Because the American people, as we now know a majority who voted for Trump, firmly believed this country was in crisis. The people in Washington, D.C. do not. They never have thought that the country is on the precipice of being transformed into something it was not intended to be, because their lives are fine. They live in the financial capital. They live in the power capital of the world, Washington, D.C. Life for them, circumstances for them do not mirror the circumstances for average Americans who do not live in Washington. Open borders, this never-ending stream of people coming into the country and not assimilating, threatening the very fabric, social, economic, financial of this country. People are just fed up. They're angry. They're angry at the Republican Party for not listening to them. They're angry at the Republican Party for pretending to hear them on the campaign trail, but then abandoning them after they get elected and not implementing policies they promised to. And furthermore, I told them that the people voting for Donald Trump are fed up with this double standard. The Democrats excuse Bill Clinton and all these other sexual abusers and make them heroes. They rise to the top of the latter in the Democrat Party power structure and apparatus, and they are never held accountable for the things that they do. And I said, this tape is nothing more than something you said. So don't kowtow to it. I don't even know if the message was conveyed to Trump. Sorry about that. I just heard the table reverberate. I don't know if the message was conveyed to Trump. You know, in these massive organizations like this, you don't know. But I was proven right about this. Look, I'm up against it on time. A quick time out here, but we will continue on this train, this path when we get back. Don't go away. On Good Morning America today, Robin Roberts. Now keep in mind the drive-by stars are dropping like flies because of sexual abuse and sexual harassment of women. And this is not how it was supposed to be. It was Trump on tape bragging about what powerful guys get to do with women, but all he was doing was talking. Now these Democrats are getting caught, and Robin Roberts cannot believe
People keep going back to, the President Trump, just tweeting about it as well, and people are saying people losing their jobs, and yet in other positions in politics, and not just with President Trump, but other politicians who are accused of these types of actions, they still have their jobs, and people are trying to kind of reconcile and try and understand that.
This is not over yet.
No, that's George Stephanopoulos, who ran the war room of the Clinton campaign, helping destroy women who came forward to accuse Bill Clinton. Robin Roberts, why does Trump still have his job? Why is the media stars losing their job? Why does Trump still have? I can explain this. It's real easy. In fact, you know what, Ms. Roberts, I'm going to explain to you why Trump still has a job. We get back from the break. Why he hasn't lost any support, despite you. So why does Donald Trump still have his job and all the leftist media titans, entertainment titans are dropping like flies? Simplest reason is people like Donald Trump. They relate to Donald Trump. They appreciate Donald Trump. As compared to people like Elizabeth Warren, who is a phony and is angry all the time. And everybody on the left is angry and outraged all the time. The American people, and this is something the swamp is never going to understand, no matter how many times you tell them face to face. The American people, and by that I'm talking about Trump supporters, the majority of people, the reason Trump still has his job today and is in no danger of losing it, people in the establishment in Washington do not realize how angry the American people are and how angry they have been at the one-sided nature of the media, the abject double standards and unfairness, the total mistreatment of a harmless individual, Melania Trump, who hasn't done anything to anyone. They mock, they laugh at, they make fun of, they try to hurt and harm, while on the other end of the scale, they lift up and praise Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, Elizabeth Warren, and any other hypocrite leftist female. There is never any introspection. There is never any investigation. There is never even a negative word or suspicion about people on the left who a majority of Americans view as incurring great damage and harm on this country. The people inside Washington, of both parties, of all media, never Trumpers, half-baked Trumpers, Trump supporters, if you're in Washington, I don't think you, even though you might think you know, I don't think people there understand how long this anger has raged, and it's real. They don't understand the depth of the perception of the rigged game that the media and the Democrat Party are running. They don't get how angry these people are at members of their own party who don't stand up to it, who cower at the first sign of obstruction or objection from the media. It's a combination of frustration and anger and rage that is all completely legitimate. And Donald Trump stands up to it and swats it all away like they're a bunch of insects and flies, enjoys it and smiles, and is not affected, is not taken off his game, is not misdirected by any of the usual things the media and the Democrats do to take out Republicans, to destroy them. Trump welcomes the assaults, and he promotes them, and he tweaks them, and he encourages them. I don't think people who don't watch the news the way you and I do. Let's take yesterday as an example. I don't think people who casually absorb the news. Can you absorb the news casually? Let me rephrase this. I don't think people paying scant attention to the news beyond headlines, the way we watch the news, understood the impact of yesterday. The Senate meets with Trump. Reports after the meeting were glowing. You probably don't know this. Trump met with the Senate yesterday. What you probably know is that Chuck and Nancy were outraged and didn't show up to a meeting with Trump. What you also don't know is that Trump wins in that scenario. Trump caused that scenario. A simple tweet from Trump. Oh, and that's why they really hate him, by the way. They hate that he tweets, and they hate that his tweets are effective, and they're doing everything they can to try to make those tweets ineffective, and they can't. They don't have anybody on their side that can use Twitter anywhere nearly as effective as Trump does. And they think they have all the entertainment stars and all the experts and the paid professional media consultants, and they can't come up with anybody who can even compete with Trump on Twitter. So the Senate meets with Trump. Reports after the meeting were glowing about Trump. What a great meeting it was. How much progress, so much so that the Senate passed the tax reform bill out of committee. People paying attention to the news believe that the tax bill is dead in the Senate because the Senate hates Trump. The stock market hit a new high. The congressional black Caucasians are getting frustrated with the Democrat Party generally for not doing anything about John Conyers. The Democrat Party is trying to circle the wagons around Conyers. Congressional black Caucasians got together to try to come up with a way to get rid of him because they understand that as long as Conyers and Franken are given a pass and are allowed to stay in office, that they are hamstrung in going after Trump, which they so desperately want to do. More elected Democrats are outed for bad behavior. Another Democrat retired. That would be Luis Gutierrez. After Chuck and Nancy bail on the meeting with Trump over the government shutdown and the budget, Trump goes ahead and has the meeting. There's a photo up. There are two empty chairs, one to each side of Trump. Trump's sitting there in the meeting in the cabinet room. He's smiling. Everybody there's having a great time, but there are two chairs that are vacant. Chuck's chair and Nancy's chair. After the Democrats have a little childish hissy fit over a tweet that outed them as the leftists they are. Trump tweeted the truth, another reason he's loved and appreciated. He tweeted that Chuck and Nancy, they don't care about a government shutdown. All they want is open borders for more illegal immigration to come in so they can be eventually registered as Democrats. Trump calls them out. They harumph, and they fail to show up, claiming that the president is not worth their time. Trump wins. This does not cause his supporters angst. It causes them to appreciate him even more. The world got to get another dose of Pocahontas yesterday. Elizabeth Warren was allowed to circulate and fan out there under the radar, but out of the blue, in an otherwise unremarkable White House ceremony, Trump focuses attention on Elizabeth Warren again. And now the media is focusing on this whole claim of hers that she is 132nd Cherokee. She's never had any proof of it other than the reference to her high cheekbones. One leftist was overheard to say, this Elizabeth Warren story, this is old. It's been around forever. Yeah, but now it's different because she's now been branded by Donald Trump. Ask Little Marco. Ask Crazy Bernie. Ask Lion Ted. Ask Crooked Hillary what it means to be branded by Trump. Elizabeth Warren is forevermore now Pocahontas. Forevermore now, Elizabeth Warren is a phony. Forevermore, Elizabeth Warren will have questions eternally circulating and surrounding her over her honesty and legitimacy of her supposed genealogical trace. Trump expertly outed the credibility of her claim to be 132nd Cherokee right as the agency that she started is unraveling. And this is another huge story. What is happening and what is being learned about this Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that Elizabeth Warren established under Dodd-Frank that has total autonomy from Congress and is now under the control of Donald Trump. And I think one of the reasons Elizabeth Warren and the Democrats are so outraged about this is because with Mick Mulvaney over there going through things, we're going to find out what kind of fraud and abuse has gone on. And we already know that money laundering has been taking place. We already know that this Consumer Protection Bureau has been levying fines against financial institutions, and then with the money collected from the fines, giving it to left-wing activist groups. There's going to be more like that discovered. Donald Trump supporters stand up and cheer. People inside the Beltway never see it because the drive-by media doesn't even cover it. They don't want to see it. They don't want to see Trump supporters cheering because their objective for over a year has been to separate Trump from his supporters. They have failed miserably. A judge ruled for Trump, and the only way the judge could rule, if the Constitution still matters, that Trump gets to name his director at that bogus and untethered slush fund called the Consumer Financial Protection Board, started by Pocahontas. North Korea drops a bomb. Well, they launch a missile. And everybody goes, oh my God, this thing can hit the East Coast. Trump says, we'll take care of it. Obama would have never said it. Hillary would have never said it. And whatever either Obama or Hillary would have said in this circumstance with North Korea would not have been comforting. Obama and Hillary would have promised more of the same, which is what led to the Norks being able to launch that missile that could hit the East Coast. Sarah Sanders tweeted after CNN said, harumph, harumph, we're not attending the White House Christmas party Friday. Sarah Sanders said, Christmas comes early. Finally, some good news from CNN. They're not coming to our party. Trump supporters applaud. Trump supporters laugh. Trump supporters cheer. Trump supporters can't get enough of it. U.S. third quarter growth revised to 3-year high, 3.3% as predicted by me yesterday. Third quarter growth, 3.3. We never saw that with Barack Hussein Obama. And when Trump pledged 3% or greater, they mocked him and made fun of him and said it wasn't possible. And it was delusional to think it. Even though in the 80s we routinely had 6% growth. We're headed back in the right direction, and Trump supporters know it, and they applaud it. Gross domestic product grew 3.3 annual rate. Consumer spending, biggest part of the economy, grew 2.3%. You want to hear some stats on the economy to explain to you why Donald Trump still has his job and Matt Lauer and Harvey Weinstein and Charlie Rose don't? Stock market, all-time high. Those three guys have been trying to talk down the economy to the benefit of the Democrat Party. Job openings, all-time high. Unemployment rate, U6, the lowest in 11 years. Consumer confidence, 17-year high. Home sales, new home sales, a 10-year high. New home average price, an all-time high. Federal manufacturing, 24-year high. There is a Trump economy. It is a rebound. There is a surging, growing economy. The stock market was at 18,000 1 year ago. You realize this? On election day, the stock market, the Dow Jones Industrial Average at 18,000. This week, it looks to surpass 24,000. Which leads to a question. Would John McCain or any other Republican really torpedo this by trying to torpedo tax reform? Answer, yes. Another reason why Trump's voters love and support him, because they're fully aware that Trump's opposition encompasses people in his own party, people Trump supporters have voted for in the past and are angry. Simply put, there isn't a reason for Trump supporters to be mad at him. It's just the opposite. Let me take a brief time out. We will continue when we get back. Don't go away. Hey, there's another one. Another one. Garrison Keillor, Prairie Home Companion, fired for alleged improper behavior by Minnesota Public Radio. Garrison Keillor, the former host of a Prairie Home Companion, and he used to be loved and adored by all touchy-feely progressive. In fact, I remember when this program began in August of 1988, it was within a year or year and a half that AP or somebody went out, asked Garrison Keillor, what do you think of this Rush Limbaugh, this new hotshot on the radio? And it was the usual, never heard of him, then I listened to him, and it just, it's nothing, it won't last. It's just flash in the pan stuff. Garrison Keillor, fired by Minnesota Public Radio over allegations of improper behavior. Keillor told the AP of his firing in an email. In a follow-up statement, he says he was fired over a story that I think is more interesting and more complicated than the version NPR heard. He didn't give any details. Just keep dropping. Here's Jeff in Los Angeles. Jeff, great to have you. I wanted to get to you this hour. How you doing, sir?
Doing very well, thank you.
You bet. Great to have you here. What's up? What's shaking? What's happening?
Well, I'm wondering if they're just failing to communicate that there would be investigations that would occur before these decisions are made to terminate these executives with the various networks. I work in human resources, and, in my view, in my past experience, you don't enter into a decision to terminate someone, even if they're at will, unless you have a really sound basis. And I would think these people will be put on some administrative leave pending an investigation, and then we would learn that they're terminated.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I really think that Lauer has been let go because of such an investigation. And I think the rapidity with which he was dispatched is an indication of what they found in that investigation.
Okay.
Because believe me, they did everything they could to say Brian Williams, and did.
Oh, I'm sure. So you think there are investigations that are being carried out?
Yeah, but remember, there's no First Amendment here. This is a privately held, well, it's a public company, but they can hire and fire whoever they want for whatever reason. They can fire you if they change. Like if NBC decided to dump the Today Show and do 2 hours of Chinese opera in a reach out to Asian listeners, Asian viewers, and everybody got fired. That's just the way it is. I mean, I have been fired because the radio station changed format, and there were about 12 of it. When you're talking about a business, they can fire anybody for it. It helps if they have cause. People fired can object to it if they want, but something like this, believe me, if they didn't have to do it, they wouldn't have done it. If they could have found a way to hold on to Matt Lauer, because Matt Lauer, people are saying, is the face of NBC News. So you have to think that they dug deep in what they found they didn't like. Is it possible that we are in the midst of a crack-up and potential breakdown of the hypocritical drive-by leftist media? We will explore this possibility and more when we get back. All right, President Trump just now getting wheels up on the way to Charles, Missouri, going to do a speech on tax reform. It's not a rally. Wheels up? Oh, yeah, that's inside. That's inside, aircraft lingo. Most people say takeoff. We insiders say wheels up. In fact, I even have a text shortcut on my phone, WU, wheels up. Say, Catherine, wheels up, just to let her know everything's okay. Greetings and welcome back. Oh, by the way, you know what is a public service? I realize that many of you leftists in this country have great animus toward me and toward this program. It's totally unnecessary. And I want to demonstrate a willingness to help here. If there are any of you Democrats who have not abused, harassed, or beaten up a woman, just call and tell us, and we'll tell the world. It might take a lot less time than all of this drip stuff that we're experiencing here. I mean, in case you're just turning in, Garrison Keillor is the most recent Prairie Home Companion. For those of you that don't know what that was, how would you describe a Prairie Home Companion? Of course, that's what it was, but how would you describe it? It was a radio theater, is what I sturdily said. It was not a variety show. It was a pretend. It was Garrison Keillor constructing liberal utopia at Lake Wobegon. Lake Wobegon. And there's a bunch of people like the what are the characters in the Lord of the Rings? The Gremlins, Munchkins, whatever. The Hobbits. It's a community of Hobbit-like people. Everybody loved each other. Everybody got along. There was no hatred. There was no racism, bigotry, homophobia. There was no sexual harassment. It was perfect liberal utopia. And the guy in charge of it has admitted to sexual harassment or so forth. So just saying, if there are any of you Democrats or leftists who have not behaved this way, we will be happy to publicize that for you. Because I imagine that a lot of Democrats are starting to worry that this is going to start tainting a lot of innocent people. Because if this keeps up, it won't be long before people assume that this is standard operating behavior in both the media and in Hollywood and in the Democrat Party. Well, it may well be. That's the thing. I mean, and in the past, practitioners of this stuff, the harassers and abusers, have been lionized. They have been elevated to positions of great authority and power within the Democrat Party. And all kinds of effort was made to save them, including the eventual bastardization of feminism. The feminists literally destroyed their entire core belief system in exchange for maintaining Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton and others like that in power. Anyway, back to the audio sound bites from the archives, the Graveyard of Forgotten Sound Bites, 2012. There's a TV network called Bravo. Of course, many probably know because that's where the Real Housewives shows are, aren't they? Real Housewives of wherever. They're all on Bravo. So everybody knows Bravo. Well, there's a guy that had a show on there on Bravo called Andy Cohen. And a program called Watch What Happens Live. And during a Plead the Fifth segment, he spoke with former Today Show host Katie Couric about Matt Lauer. She co-anchored the Today Show with Matt Lauer from 1991 to 2006. But wait, Matt Lauer didn't start there till she co-anchored with somebody else. But anyway, Cohen is asking her about the most annoying habit that Matt Lauer had.
What is Matt's most annoying habit?
He pinches me on the ass a lot.
Oh, he pinches me on the ass a lot. Now, wait. Did he just talk about pinching you on the ass, or did he actually do it? And in this case, Matt Lauer actually did it. Now, this aired. This aired on Bravo in 2012, and it didn't get a whole lot of attention. But things like this are now going to be circulating, resurfacing, popping up out there. And you know what we ought to do? Isn't it? We ought to start a pool. Who's next? You know, kind of like you have a fantasy football league in drinking games. Let's start a pool. And you can bet on the names of famous Democrats in the media, in their party, and in Hollywood. You know, who's next to the list that is going to be accused? I mean, if such a list existed, would you have ever put Matt Lauer on it? You wouldn't have. See, that's an illustration of how shocking this is. Katie Couric stood for it? Well, obviously she did. Obviously she stood for it, sat for it too. Oh, just because she sat doesn't mean he wouldn't be able to pinch her. A pincher is going to pinch. If there's one thing we know about these guys, a groper is going to grope, a grabber is going to grab, a pincher is going to pinch her. Well, now, wait a second. Now, that's Snerdley just said, what does this say about the strong women thing? I'm going to tell you, I really think that the floodgates are about to open on this all over the place, not just confined to famous people in the media or in Hollywood or in the political parties. The reason the women haven't stood up is because all of this occurred when they did not have any power to do anything about it. Look at how long all these guys got away with this. That's the big thing that's changing here. Look, I have said, I don't know how many times over the course of this program, in discussing feminism and the traditional roles that men and women have in relationships, if you've heard me say it once, you're probably frustrated how many times I've said it. I always have believed that in a civilized society, it's women who have the ultimate power. It's women who say yes or no to so many things. Yes or no to going out on a date. Yes or no to marriage. Yes or no to... It's women who have the power in a civilized. Well, obviously, these have not been what we would call civilized circumstances. These have been work-related. If Matt Lauer, somebody like that's out there abusing you, I guarantee you part of it is the threat that if you say anything about it, you're going to lose your job. You can't beat me in a power struggle. So many women, and I wouldn't hold it against the women here in these circumstances, because when it comes to this kind of behavior, it's not just the behavior. There's the threat. There's the attitude. There is the callous disregard for one's humanity in this. This is despicable stuff. You know, we're talking about it here in the abstract, but in the workplace, this is indefensible. Well, they might slap you in the face, but they obviously did not slap Matt Lauer. And maybe if one of them did and we don't know about it, where is she now? Is the point. Okay, let's use a different example. Let's go to any town USA, and the town bully happens to be a guy, and he goes into a restaurant regularly and is continually harassing the waitress. And everybody sees it and everybody knows about it, but this guy, for some reason, has enough pull or power in town that nobody does anything about it. And maybe the woman has stood up to him, and but it's still unnerving. But we don't know that women didn't stand up to Harvey Weinstein at some point and pay the price for doing so. But they all feared that there would be a huge price, and the price is losing not just your job, but your career. And so this became the equivalent of having to eat the excrement sandwich for a lot of these women. And I think we're at a threshold here where this is about to change in a huge way. And then there is a risk that the pendulum is going to swing a little bit too far here for a while, where all it's going to take is one allegation and automatically the guy is guilty, because there has been so much obvious guilt that has been publicized here. That's just a quirk of nature of the way our culture and society works. the pendulum swings back and forth, and sometimes it goes way, way, way out of whack before it gets back to the center again. But I've always thought, when we talk about this in the abstract, especially for people that don't do it, for guys that do not treat women this way and have not seen this kind of behavior, you joke about it, and you might even say, well, why don't the women just stand up and punch the guy in the face, or why don't the women just... And it doesn't work that way in the workplace. For one thing, the guys are choosing powerless women on purpose. That's part of the insurance policy of engaging in this kind of behavior. I mean, you note that the actress is coming forth with Weinstein. This all happened back when they were nobodies, when they were on their career path trying to become successful and so forth. But I think it's despicable, and the hypocrisy here knows no bounds. And I think it's becoming... And I asked a question before the break at the top of the hour. Is it possible that we are in the midst of a crack-up and breakdown of the hypocritical leftists in the drive-by media and the establishment entertainment sectors, political sectors? And if so, has it been brought to us by the one and only Donald Trump? There is so much of this now that it's impossible to escape the hypocrisy. Here you have Bill Clinton, and it's widely known now what he did and what he got away with. The stories about Ted Kennedy are coming out. Now all of these addendum, like Weinstein and Garrison Keillor today and Charlie Rose and so forth, at some point people are going to pick up, if they're not already. Wait a minute, these are the people telling us they love and respect women. These are the guys telling us that they're big feminists and that they're pro-choice and all this. I think we're a little distance away from those same people. Wait a minute, these are the guys telling us Republicans are conducting a war on women. I don't think that realization is hit yet. We need to further that one along. We need to help people remember that these reprobates are the ones accusing us of conducting a war on women. But we saw in the primary, in the Republican primary, we saw what happened to people when they get branded by Trump. Little Marco, low energy Jeb, Lion Ted, crooked Hillary, crazy Bernie. When Trump brands you, Pocahontas, when Trump brands you, you own it. That's how people know you. Even if they don't like Trump or agree with Trump, not even Trump supporters. That's how people now think of Elizabeth Warren. And Donald Trump has been branding the drive-bys as fake news for over a year. And it really bugs them. They do not have the ability to laugh it off, as I would think they would do. But they take themselves so seriously, folks. I want to ask you, do you know people that take themselves so seriously that they're not even real? They take themselves so seriously that they are so self-focused, so inwardly focused, they're not even aware of the existence of other people and what those people feel, think, or say, and they certainly don't care. That's the drive-by media. They take themselves so damn seriously, whether it is the acknowledgement of their business in the First Amendment of the Constitution, or whether it's just the way they're trained, or whether it's just owing to their personalities. They take themselves so damn seriously. And here comes Donald Trump insulting them in the most successful and profound, effective way, calling them fake. If I were them, I'd laugh it off. I would ignore it, but they can't because they are so self-important. They are so self-focused. So could it be that on top of their icons getting tossed aside like the dirty laundry they are, Charlie Rose, Mark Halperin, Matt Lauer, Michael Oreskes, the guy Sweeney at NPR. These institutions are failing bigly, or at least they're having the deck chairs moved. When Trump brands somebody as something, it sticks. And fake news has stuck. And it's gotten to the point now, I repeat this because I just think it's hilarious. CNN gets all out of joint about being invited to the Christmas party at the White House Friday, and they're not going. They're not going. Why, he calls us fake news. We wouldn't dare. We wouldn't grace the White House with our presence. We wouldn't take that deep step down. And what's Sarah Huckabee Sanders do? Say, hey, finally some good news out of CNN. They're not showing up at our party. CNN becomes another laughing stock, except within the swamp where they're all wringing their hands over. This is not the way this is supposed to go. Trump's the guy that's supposed to be the butt of the joke by now. Trump's the guy supposed to be barely hanging on. We are stars. We're important. We are the news media. We are the power base in this country, and they are laughing at us, and they can't take being laughed at. They cannot take being the brunt of the joke because they take themselves so seriously. Conservatives have whined and moaned about the media and, for the most part, totally given in to the power of the media for decades, but not Donald Trump. Trump is one guy to stand up to these fallible bullies and back them into a corner and applaud when they tell him they're not coming to his Christmas party. I always knew, man, there's some stories I still can't tell you from the television show days. There's one, maybe someday I'll be able to tell this one. But I've always known, and I've always suggested, the way of dealing with some of these people in the drive-by is to go after them personally the way they go after everybody else. They go after everybody as paragons of virtue. They go after everybody as though they occupy the highest pedestal of morality and virtue. And they sit there in judgment on everybody else's moral failings. When you turn it around and try to look at their moral failings, how many illegitimate children have they had? How many DUIs have they got? They have an outraged reaction. You can't do that. We're journalists. First Amendment, blah, blah. Well, that's what Trump does in his own way. Turns everything back on them by way of fake news, and has caused there to be more questioning of the legitimacy of the news media than there ever has been in our lifetimes. Back to the phones to Shawnee, Kansas, which is not far from Overland Park, Kansas, where I used to live in a shack, and Olathe, Kansas. Here's Mark. Great to have you, sir. How are you?
Good. Good to talk to you, Rush. I've
Thank you.
Listened to you since 1990 when I carried mail and you were a little transistor radio in my shirt pocket.
Oh, wow. Transistor radio.
Yes, indeed.
The good old days.
To get to the point, this whole thing started to get Trump, Roy Moore, whoever they could on the Republican side. I think it's spread a little bit further now to more of a feminist thing, to where who's going to replace Matt Lauer? Think it's going to be another guy, or think they're going to put a female in there just because of what he did?
Now, wait a minute. You're onto something here. Do you have time to hold over to the break?
Sure.
Good. Because that's coming up in about 45 seconds. You say this started out as a way to get Trump, and that's undeniable. But I think there's another element to this that people are forgetting. And maybe not forgetting, just not considering. The modern, how to phrase this. This started as an effort to inflict great damage on Fox News. Do not forget that aspect of this. And in that context, it's fascinating to see how this is reverberating and rebounding back at him. Hang on a minute. Don't hang up. And we're back with Mark in Shawnee, Kansas, again, not far from Overland Park, Kansas, where I used to live in a shack. And you have an interesting point here. You're thinking that this is the chickification of America that is occurring quite rapidly, right?
Absolutely, and it may not stop here. It's going to start. It's going to continue on with CEOs of companies, with congressmen, with senators, and probably even the presidency in 2020. Wait till November 2018. You're going to hear a lot more about this. Every female that's running against a male is going to say, "We can't have this no more. It's got to stop. We've got to turn this around." And I was listening to Tucker Carlson last night, and he had some lady on from Teen Vogue or something that says it doesn't matter if a few innocent men get caught up in this net. We've got to make a stop to this, and we've got to empower the women.
Now, I will concur with this. But I'm going to change the term. I have used the term chickification of America quite a bit, but this is not it to me. The chickification of America is turning men into women. This is not that. This happens to be, in a lot of these cases, that dunderhead from Teen Vogue notwithstanding, this happens to be a legitimate issue. And what's going to happen here is the pendulum swinging too far. And you're right. Like Matt Lauer's replacement is going to have to be a woman, right?
Absolutely. Not only that, you can see it coming, and I don't think it started out this way. But like you said, the pendulum's going to swing, and it's going to swing real hard the other way. But if you put women in power, this won't happen no more.
Yeah.
And Hillary kind of is on that same platform when she ran for the presidency, glass ceiling and everything else.
See, now this is my point. Your definition of chickification differs from mine. This has been going on for the longest time. The segregation of men and women from the standpoint that only women can represent women, that only blacks can represent blacks, and that only white men can represent white men, that white men can't represent African Americans. This kind of segregation in our politics has been going on for a long, long time, and it is directly tied to liberalism and its effort to divide people into groups of victims against one massively huge majority, which is white Christian men.
Absolutely.
They are the target. Now this, though, the sexual harassment, this is undeniably happening. And there needs to be a price. What my fear is that if you combine this view that only women can understand women, only women can represent women, men cannot. Your theory is that this is going to lead to more female CEOs. If the replacer Matt Lauer is not another guy but rather a woman, that's going to represent nothing more, I think, than corporate overreacting, like corporations have overreacted to the so-called majorities of people believing in climate change when they really haven't. There haven't been those majorities. But, corporations want to sell things, and they're going to target the vast majority of people they can. And if they believe that the vast majority believe in climate change, and they're going to do their best to make customers think they, too, at the corporation, care about it. This is going to, it's going to manifest itself such as that women will only feel safe in the workplace with other women. And,
yes, and if you were a white male Republican and you had an intern and you were to have a meeting or anything else with her, would you have her in your office alone at this point? Even if you had the best intentions in the world?
You ask, me.
Or a senator or a congressman or anybody like that.
Well, that's
because it's like Russian roulette. Who do you know what he has on the other side of the desk and what they'll say after the meeting?
Clearly,
to ruin you.
The common sense thing to do is never put yourself in that circumstance.
Right.
And most people will put themselves. Will act accordingly going forward.
Absolutely.
But when Mike Pence suggested that just a few short months ago, look at the reaction he got.
I remember that.
He was mocked, was laughed at, said to be discriminating against women by denying them an opportunity to learn from him. So you can't win with these people. And that's the example of Trump is don't try to accommodate or appease them. Just be who you are and don't be afraid to attack their phoniness and their hypocrisy. And he does it routinely. He does it instinctively, and they don't know how to deal with it. It can be done. This kind of inertia can be overcome and stopped. But this is going to fall dangerously close to the area of political correctness. And sadly, most people, when confronted with political correctness, cower to it rather than stand up to it. But I have a lot of people on the other side of glass here today who think it's not automatic that Matt Lauer's replacement is going to be a woman. And that it's not automatic that all of these guys that are being dispatched because of abuse and harassment and so forth are going to be replaced by women. Now, what is going to happen, where you're really right on, is that the feminist movement is going to push for these kinds of things. The feminist movement and the left is going to find a way to politicize this and further corrupt this for their own political benefit. And make no mistake, even now, they are looking for ways that they can blame Trump for what happened to Matt Lauer. You might laugh. Come on, Rush. There's no way to... You do not know them as I do if you reject that possibility. I'm not saying they're going to succeed, but I'm telling you, they're plotting. They're looking at ways. Their team is dropping like flies, folks. This is not what was supposed to happen. Trump was supposed to drop like flies. Remember how the modern era of this did not start with Harvey Weinstein. It started at Fox News. This started out as an effort to do great damage and harm to Fox News. And there's a lot of schadenfreude happening here now, because the people who were just happy as they could be and cheering all over the place over what had happened to Roger Ailes, well, isn't it funny? Look what's happening to the cheerleaders. Look what's happening to the cheering squad now. They're dropping like flies. And every one of these people, do not doubt me, when Charlie Rose is reporting on the sexual harassment of Roger Ailes, he's knowing what he's doing while he's reporting on it. And while Matt Lauer's reporting on all this, he knows what he's been doing. And yet these people continued to report on Republicans as the enemy and try to destroy them with these same kind of allegations, knowing full well what they themselves have been doing in their own lives. You might call it karma, you might call it schadenfreude, you might call it life balancing out, but regardless, from the standpoint of the left, this was not supposed to how this is happening. This is not what was supposed to happen. This is not the way this was supposed to go at all. They were to never be exposed. Only Trump was to be exposed, and Trump was to pay the price, and Trump was to be sent, and the Republicans were going to learn never to ever again send somebody to Washington like Trump from the outside. Look, don't misunderstand me. When I asked at the top of this hour, I asked, is it possible that we're in the midst of the crack up and breakdown of the hypocrites in Hollywood, the media, the Democrat Party? I'm not saying that that's happened. I'm asking, is it possible that we are seeing the beginnings of it? I would certainly hope so, but we don't have near enough time in or data to know whether or not this is actually happening. But I'll tell you this. You look at this objectively and honestly, how many of you throughout your entire lives ever thought that there would be this kind of reckoning and exposure of people in the media and the Democrat Party and in Hollywood? How many of you ever thought this kind of price would ever be paid by these people? I would venture to say none of you. No matter how much you thought it would be cool or funny, no matter how many of you thought it might be justified, I doubt very many people ever thought anything like this would ever happen. Because in terms of media in the Hollywood, they've always been seen as impenetrably powerful. Can't dent them, can't win, can't overpower them. Something we just have to learn to live with, tolerate, get used to. Never did anybody expect anything like this. Will you ever think that a presidential administration would applaud and laugh at a news organization rejecting its invitation to a Christmas party and celebrate it? The answer is no. And it's again why so many Trump voters are deliriously happy and supportive of this. And it's not because it's payback time. It's because of genuine, heartfelt anger at the unfairness, at the one-sidedness. Call it bias if you will, but this is far beyond bias. This has been a stacked deck for us, for all of our lives. This is just a little bit of balance here on the seesaw, if you will, or the pendulum. And it's all because of Trump. Trump is driving them insane. Well, I say all. I mean, they're playing a role in it, too. But this kind of stuff, if Hillary had been elected, none of this would be happening, and we wouldn't have the economy we have. If Crazy Bernie had been elected, none of this would be going on. The sexual harassers would be still harassing. Harvey Weinstein would still be doing what he's doing. So would everybody else. None of this would have happened. And we wouldn't have anywhere near this kind of economy. And the North Koreans would not feel the slightest bit deterred. It's a markedly different set of circumstances, and this is exactly what people voted for Trump for, why they did. Still a lot of ground to cover, still a lot of things to accomplish, and the opposition from the left is still as vibrant and strong as it ever has been. It's just they have been knocked off their game. Let me take a brief time out again. We'll be back. We will continue after this. Hang on. Here is Wolf Blitzer, ladies and gentlemen. Last night, CNN's The Switcher Room, the Situation Room. Wolf Blitzer and Dana Bash are discussed this horrible thing, this sexual harassment business, and it seems to be the Democrats are dropping like flies. Listen to this.
Have Democrats, Dana, lost the moral high ground on these issues right now? There's also Senator Franken of Minnesota.
There are some Democrats I've talked to who fear just that they are losing the moral high ground. We'll see what other shoes drop, because it's hard to imagine there won't be more.
That's because nobody knew about Matt Lauer last night when this happened. But how about these people thinking they own the moral high ground? See, this is the great contradiction. They have the practitioners. They are legion on their side, the sexual harassers, the abusers. And they have celebrated them. They turned them into stars and lions of the party. They put them at the top of the resume ladder. And here's Wolf Blitzer. The Democrats in danger of losing the moral high ground here. Al Franken, moral high ground? But see, they think they have it. They sit there and they have moral purity, and they then are qualified to sit in moral judgment of everybody else. But don't you dare investigate their morality. No, 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 no. Don't you dare look into their pasts. I don't know who they think they're fooling anymore with this. And I'm telling you, the fact that Trump is still, it's like this headline, members of Congress and media stunned that Trump is still standing and fighting back. They can't, as each one of their flies drop, Matt Lauer and a Garrison Keillor, they can't believe it. Here's Gloria Borger just moments ago with Wolf Blitzer on CNN. Number 26, soundbite number 26 in 3.
We have Donald Trump tweeting about this morning because he can tweet about the mainstream media and he doesn't like NBC just like he doesn't like us. But it's as if he believes that he's got this bulletproof vest around him. And he is tweeting about this and seems to forget that, in fact, he was accused of sexual impropriety by more than a dozen women during the campaign. And yes, he got elected, and we all understand that. But he is somebody who has denied those charges. But I'm wondering now whether in his own case, and the fact that he's out there being a pundit on this stuff, whether he's going to have to deal with this again personally. I mean, we just don't know.
You need me to translate this for you? Damn it! He did it! He got away with it! And by God, we're going to keep bringing it up until he bites the dust! He's not going to get it. If our people are dropping, he's going down. And we're not going to stop until he goes down. He may think he's got one of these bulletproof vests on, but we're going to get him. We're going to get him. We're going to get him because, damn it, he should have been gotten a year ago. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. I hate him. 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 Doesn't he know he's been accused? Yeah, he was elected. Stupid people. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. There's your translation. And pretty much that would hold up for the entire drive-by media. Thank you, Gloria Borger. Let's see. Savannah Guthrie. We got time for this. Audio soundbite number 3. Guthrie says she didn't know and that she's heartbroken for her brave colleague who accused Matt Lauer.
We do not know more than what I just shared with you, but we will be covering this story as reporters, as journalists. I'm heartbroken for Matt. He is my dear, dear friend and my partner, and he is beloved by many, many people here.
Stop the tape. Look, I'm heartbroken for my dear, dear friend and partner, as though somebody made him do this. Some virus got hold of him and made him mistreat these women. I'm just so heartbroken for Matt. He's my dear friend, my dear, dear friend and partner. He's beloved by many, many people. I'm heartbroken by the brave colleague who came forward and told Matt didn't really do this. A virus got hold of him. Maybe aliens landed and infected his brain somehow. Well, yeah, he was possessed. So Savannah Guthrie's heartbroken for everybody involved. Didn't know any of it was going on. I don't know. Look, it's probably a good thing I have a break here because after the Gloria Borger translation, I'm a bit spent. By the way, little Brian Stelter's CNN is busting Savannah Guthrie, calling her out. He says, wait a minute. She says she didn't know. She knew. Brian Stelter at CNN says that Savannah Guthrie knew last week. We'll have that audio soundbite coming up. And the rest of today's exciting excursion into broadcast excellence hosted by me when we get back. All right, here we are back at it, my friends. Truly having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have today. At Rush Limbaugh and the EIB Network. And, of course, the distinguished and prestigious Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Conservative Studies. Yes, sirree, Bob. Okay, so, 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. The email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. As usual, we get to the third hour. There's a lot of stuff I still want to cram in here, so we're going to give it our best shot. Go back to Savannah Guthrie. Not going to play the soundbite. Grab number 5. But Savannah Guthrie says, we just don't know more than what I just shared with you. But we will be covering the story as reporters and journalists, because journalists are wonderful people, and we're journalists, and we're really important, and so we're going to be covering what happened to our friend here, and it's really bad what happened to Matt. Feel so bad, heartbroken for Matt, what happened to Matt. He's my dear friend and my friend and partner. He's beloved by many, many people here. This is a sad thing what happened to it. What do you mean what happened to it? And I'm heartbroken for the brave colleague who came forward to tell her story and other women who may have their own stories. That means there's going to be more. Wouldn't you agree, Mr. Snerdley, that means? And we are grappling with a dilemma that so many people have faced these weeks. How do you reconcile your love for someone with the revelation that they behave? Let me tell you Savannah, let me tell you what everybody knows. We all know how the drill works here. Matt Lauer is going to be back in the drive-by media inside of a year. And so is Charlie Rose. If Charlie isn't, it's going to be an age thing. But Matt Lauer is going to be back. Just like Brian Williams was back after 6 months sabbatical at home. I'm waiting for Brian Williams to say that Matt Lauer harassed him. Brian likes to be in every news story. But we all know the drill here. This isn't permanent. These people circle the wagons. Dan Rather is still out there putzing around doing news stories. There's always going to be somebody somewhere in the drive-by media who will look past all this. And Matt Lauer will be hired somewhere. I don't know that Bill O'Reilly will, but Matt Lauer will. Safe to say? So, yeah, I feel so bad, but don't. Because it's, you just have to go through the role here. You got to play the game. Okay, so you're trying to get Trump on this stuff. The wrong people keep showing up. You got to dump them. It's the price that we pay to get Trump. In fact, we have a caller coming up with an interesting perspective on all of this. Mr. Snerdley, does the caller think this is a conspiracy? The caller thinks that all these people are dropping like flies and that all of us are reacting. Yeah, damn right, this is a principle. You should go. We have no tolerance. Out of there. And then when they finally get Trump, for us to be consistent, we're going to say, well, yeah, that's horrible, Trump. You got to go. So even now, with the drive-bys reeling, there are people on our side who think they are infallible. And how about Megyn Kelly to replace Matt Lauer? That was my first thought this morning when I first heard this. There's no faster way to rehab her. What? Who? Maybe, don't forget that. I'm thinking of NBC management. They've got the Today Show here they got to worry about here. This is where number one male anchor that's down for the count here. They've got they hired Megyn Kelly to be their up-and-coming star, the new whatever face, and it's not worked so far. But what if, in the midst of all of this attention, they plop her in there next to Savannah Guthrie? Do not rule it out. Do not. It's exactly the kind of play that Andy Lack and these guys that run that place would be thinking about. They'd be thinking about it from the standpoint of rehabbing her image, give her the top slot there, well, next to Savannah. It would be a statement that NBC's making that she is earned it, qualified for it. They're willing to invest in it. And if it made Savannah and Hoda quit, well, who knows? If there's a cat fight over this, even better. No, I don't want to bring back Brian Gumbel. Brian Gumbel's happy over there at Real Sports at HBO. No. HBO is its own enclave, of wacko leftists. I mean, that place is gone in terms of their produced news-type programming. Yeah. But I can see them putting Megyn Kelly in there. Not predicting it, but I'm just telling you, if they did it, I would not be surprised. I don't know if she'd do a show with all the accusers for Lauer. Depends on how many of them show up. Depends on how much NBC thinks they could gain by doing that versus how much they might lose by doing that. Anyway, here's Brian Stelter. Now, Guthrie said she didn't know anything about this. She didn't know. She was heartbroken for her brave colleague. But Brian Stelter on CNN this morning had this to say.
When I watched that broadcast, I was thinking to myself, this is an awkward situation for Lauer and his co-host Savannah Guthrie, because both of them knew that these stories were in the works. Their colleagues had been getting phone calls from reporters who had been investigating Lauer's history. So NBC was in a very delicate situation here. They say they had never received any formal complaints about Lauer, but they knew reporters were digging, looking into his past. So they kept him on the air until Tuesday morning.
See, this is further evidence that they knew. And what Brian Stelter is saying here is that all of these NBC people were getting called by reporters. Hey, we hear that Matt Lauer X, Matt Lauer Y, Matt Lauer Z. I don't know. So they knew. You know what I wonder? I'm watching all these cable networks. Like on CNN today, every female anchorette has done the Matt Lauer story. And I wonder what's really going through their minds as they do the story. They're reading the prompters and they're putting on the appropriate facial expression as dictated by the prompter and the director. But I wonder what they're really thinking. Are they crestfallen? Are they heartbroken that one of the icons of the liberal media is gone? Or are they secretly happy that it's an opening that now may free them up or others for upward mobility job-wise? If you're at CNN, would you rather be working at NBC News or CNN? Are you happy to see a competitor fall, or are you worried that the leftist drive-by media is taking a big hit and you'd really rather not have to report on this? I wonder what really goes through their minds, and particularly the women, because the women have to stand together in solidarity against this kind of male predatory behavior. And before they knew, Matt Lauer, I mean, he was probably big shot, great guy, widely admired and looked up to. And so many bubbles are bursting here. So many images are being shot to smithereens. You just wonder what they think. Because you know when they're doing a story on like an O'Reilly or any other Republican or conservative, they're just in their mind. They love it. They love reporting on it. They love the raised eyebrows. They love doing it. But when it's one of their own, what is really going through their mind, we'll never know, because we never know. But I would still like to. So little Brian says they all knew, and it's true. The New York Times is working on a story, and apparently, folks, the worst is out there and is known and is only a matter of time before it drops. But no detail on what the worst is. Let's go through some flashbacks here with Matt Lauer. Here he is back on October 14th, 2016, interviewing the vice presidential nominee Mike Pence about the Access Hollywood tape of then-host Billy Bush and real estate mogul, as he was called then, Donald Trump.
1 week ago today, we heard Donald Trump, in his own words, brag about making unwanted sexual advances on women. And now we have 6 women who've come forward saying, in fact, that was more than bragging. He did those things to them. You've heard what they've had to say. You've read it. Do you believe these women?
Okay, we don't have the Pence answer to this. We're just going flashbacks because we're asking what's going through Matt Lauer's head as he's asking the question. No, seriously. What if you're in this situation, if you have done what you are asking somebody about in an accusatory way, what goes through your mind? Here is Matt Lauer, and let's see, this is well, it's with nobody. This is the announcement that Billy Bush was not good enough person to appear on the Today Show. Because Billy Bush hosted Trump on that Access Hollywood video. Billy Bush was supposed to then come to the Today Show, but they put the kibosh on that.
NBC News announced last night that Billy Bush would be leaving the Today Show effective immediately, noting that he was a valued colleague and longtime member of the broader NBC family. A statement Billy released separately last night read in part, "I look forward to what lies ahead." And, of course, all of us here today wish Billy the very best.
And we hope he keeps quiet about what he knows about us. Hey, what a... really? You got to report on this stuff knowing full well. Here is Matt Lauer grilling Bill O'Reilly.
You were probably the last guy in the world that they wanted to fire because you were the guy that the ratings and the revenues were built on. You carried that network on your shoulders for a lot of years. So doesn't it seem safe to assume that the people at Fox News were given a piece of information or given some evidence that simply made it impossible for you to stay on at Fox News?
And, Bill, the same thing's going to happen to me in a year or two. Just wait. Maybe. Well, what's going through his... What? This is my point. The question. So, is it safe to assume the people at Fox were given a piece of information or some evidence that simply made it impossible for you to stay at Fox News? Wink. And, Bill, by the way, NBC's not. They know the same stuff about me, but I'm still here, and you're gone. Ha, ha, ha. What goes through his mind when he asks these questions? We got you, Bill. We got you. You might have been the thing Fox was built on. We got you. And I've been doing everything you've been doing, Bill, and I'm still here. But not now. I'm sorry, folks. I'm not apologizing. This is what I wonder about. Do we have any more news? Yes, we do. Matt Lauer asking Jon Stewart about Louis C.K.
Your good friend and colleague Louis C.K. has been accused of and has admitted to some lewd acts involving women. What was the impact on you when you heard not only the accusations but his admission?
And what will you think, John, about me when it is revealed what I've been doing, which makes what Louis C.K. did a piker? How do you do this? You imagine being a bank robber and asking a guy that just got caught, and nobody knows you've ever robbed banks and you've gotten away with it, and you have to sit there and ask these reprobates. They got caught doing what you're doing. One more. Yes. This is CNN today. CNN, I told you they're trying to do this even now. This is CNN trying to make the Matt Lauer story all about Trump.
The President of the United States has been accused by 13 women, 12 named, one anonymous, of various forms of sexual misconduct. And now we're seeing consequences for Matt Lauer, for Charlie Rose. There will be consequences for Harvey Weinstein, for others. Yet, not for Donald J. Trump.
What a pivotal time it is to be the president when you really have seen a sea change. And he could be participating and leading this discussion. Instead, we're reading reports that he's denying what he even admitted to with the Access Hollywood tape. So it does seem a bit surreal that the leader of the country does not seem to be in lockstep with at least corporate America.
That's not what you're trying. Doesn't seem to be in lockstep with the rest of corporate. What? You're just mad that the guy hasn't been held accountable like you tried to make him held accountable, and yet all your buddies are dropping like flies. Did it ever occur to you that maybe the Trump women are making it up? Did it ever occur to you that all Trump's ever done is talk about this stuff? I mean, if NBC could have held on to Matt Lauer, they would have done it. If CBS could have held on to Charlie Rose, well, in Charlie's case, I don't know. But we have to assume if they could have held on to these people, they would have done it. I don't think these drive-by news execs enjoy this at all. They don't enjoy having to drop these people and then listening to all the cat calls and the "see, I told you so's" and so forth. Anyway, my friends, the fun never stops. Only the program now and then. Back in a second. Back to the phones to Albertville, Alabama. This is Jody, and I'm glad you waited. Welcome. Happy to have you here on the EIB Network. Hello.
Rush Limbaugh?
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Ah.
How are you?
It's been years. I've been listening to you for years. I feel like you're one of my best friends.
Well, I am.
Yes, you are.
We all are best friends here.
Yeah. I just wanted to get off my chest.
And I just want you, if you are ever accused of sexual harassment, I will not believe it.
Thank you, because I would not do that. Some women do, though.
Really?
Sure. But anyway, I called to say that I am voting for Judge Roy Moore, and I'm so mad at Republicans that I could spit nails. They're such wimps. They say that they're just going to take these women's word for it because they have no reason to doubt them. When, women do sometimes, it's a dirty little secret, sometimes women use sex to get what they want.
Really?
Yeah. But anyways, it's true. It's true. I'm sorry. I'm so excited I can't even keep my train of thought.
Well, what is it? The thing here with Roy Moore, correct me if I'm wrong, but the allegations against him are 40 years old, right?
Yes. 40 years ago, women in Georgia could get married when they were 14?
I did not know that.
Yeah. Yep, I had one right at my house at Thanksgiving, was married in Georgia when she was 14.
Is she
Not that it's good.
Is she still married?
Actually, she was married for a lot of years, but he passed away a few years ago.
Oh, okay. Well, here's the thing. You find it fascinating that while they're just going to town everybody on, what a reprobate Roy Moore is, that while that's all of these Democrats are dropping like flies.
I'll tell you what, before they even the picture with Al Franken came out, and they were talking about Roy Moore, and in my mind I'm thinking, they have Al Franken up there. I mean, really? They're not gonna let us have Roy Moore. These Republicans say they're gonna try to not seat Roy Moore, and they've got Al Franken up there. I mean, everybody knew he was sleazy even before the pictures came out.
Yeah, well, this is an insider versus outsider thing again. Roy Moore is considered persona non grata simply because of his ideology, and they think he's a kook. He's devoted to the Ten Commandments. He does weird things, like that, and people are made nervous by it in the establishment. But it is kind of ironic. Look, the latest polling data that we had out of Alabama was yesterday, and it was a poll that has, I think there are 3 previous releases of this poll, and I can't remember the name of the polling outfit right now, but it seems to be taken seriously there. And he's a 5-point lead. And your reaction to this, Jody, how many people do you think are there's a backlash? All of this piling on Roy Moore is actually causing more people to maybe look positively at him, maybe think about voting for him.
Yeah, I agree with that totally because, we're just sick of being pushed around. We're sick of it. I tell you what, I lived in Georgia years ago, and Newt Gingrich was my representative.
Right.
And then he had that big scandal, and they got rid of him. And I was mad. And then Larry McDonald was my representative, and he got shot down out of the sky. And now Roy Moore, I want him in.
Yeah,
and
that was
let me have him.
KAL-007. That was that was over the Kamchatka Peninsula. The Soviet Union shot down that airplane. Korean Airlines 007. Anyway, Jody, thank you for the call. Appreciate the feedback. We've got to take a timeout and be right back. Let's go back to the phones. I've got 2 other things I really want to get into here. I've got more on net neutrality and this Pocahontas phony baloney Consumer Protection Board and what it really was. I covered this extensively yesterday, but there's some update stuff on it today. But if I don't get to it, promise tomorrow. Here's Nathan in Monroe, New York. We head back to the phones. How are you doing, sir?
Very well. Thanks for taking my call, Rush.
Yes,
Rush,
sir.
I'd like to, going on your premise about the media cracking up, I think it needs to be helped along. And the way to do that is to point out this, that the product of liberalism is really the breeding ground for this problem. We've been told that rape is not really about sex, it's about power. Right. And liberalism is about power and increasing people in position who can leverage that power to abuse people in this way. And I think it would be very helpful. I know the establishment wouldn't do it, but I think it would be very helpful for us to point out that these people who are committing these offenses fit the exact mold who are told, commit these kinds of offenses. They're guys in power. They happen to be white guys in power. And lo and behold, they're all liberals. And lo and behold, liberalism leads to more guys.
This is interesting. Let me see if I understand what you're saying. You may really be onto something. Your premise starts with what, and by the way, this belief, this theory that rape or sexual abuse is not about sex, it's about power, can be traced back to a feminist author named Susan Brown Miller, who wrote a book in the 70s. And I forget the title of it, but if you wanted to date a feminist in the 70s, you had to read this. And you had to be conversant in it. I know because I did. But this is where the theorem was advanced that rape or sexual harassment is not about sex. It's about power. So your theory is that she's right and that liberalism is the breeding ground for this power and that we're actually seeing it on display. That the Charlie Roses and the Weinsteins and all these guys are not doing this really for sex. They're doing it for the exertion of power over people.
Well, if for no other reason, then their power affords them the opportunity. So liberalism you could point out, or you could make the case that it is self-fulfilling in this way, that people get powerful and people start to misbehave because they're powerful. And it's all on their side, really, right now.
Yeah, but how does that distinguish from, say, conservatives in power? I mean, power is power, no matter who has it and where it is. How would you distinguish it?
As a political ideology, conservatism is technically the antidote, where we're trying to reduce the institutional power and give that back to the individual where they are more accountable. Whereas, liberalism, you're building bureaucracy and you're putting people in the position and by virtue of that fact, putting them in the position to abuse women who work for them.
Yeah, okay. And you know how it extends even further? Then you use that power to put a net around everything so that the word of it doesn't get out. For example, how about this news that there have been $15 million in payouts to silence women who have been abused or harassed by members of Congress? And there's now a big movement on to have these people named and identified. It is the power structure that keeps their names hidden. It is the power structure that keeps their deeds and activities hidden. But you're right about all this. Liberalism is about the pursuit of power for the purposes of using it against other people and for the advancement of your own agenda. While liberalism portrays itself as fair and tolerant and open-minded and understanding and gentle and snowflakey and all of that. It's an interesting point. I like it. The quest to further enable Americans to understand liberalism and how liberalism actually breeds the circumstances for all of this liberal, male, abusive, power-related behavior. By the way, the Susan Brown Miller book title, Against Our Will. And I'm not kidding you. If you wanted to date a feminist woman in the 70s, you had to know about this book. And you had to fake like you understood it and agree with it. And even then, the dates were blah. I mean, who wants to talk about this stuff? But back then, for women, this was emancipatory stuff. Who calls it the Time Magazine, the book that changed the whole, what structure? Sexual discussion structure of the country. Yeah. Well, in their world, it probably was. But see, Time Magazine's world is not the American world. Maybe at one time it was when Henry Luce ran it, but Time Magazine's never been a magazine for it about America. Time Magazine's been for it about the establishment for I don't know how long. The U.S. Open. Take a look at the celebrities of the U.S. Open, the tennis tournament. Golf, totally different. The U.S. Open tennis tournament. You'll find Matt Lauer sitting in front of Charlie Rose, sitting behind, who knows? I mean, it's the New York Boston corridor, Washington corridor establishment. It's one of the things they do. And then they have their polo tournament out in the Hamptons, and then they do their whatever else they do out there. But they wherever they go, either Manhattan or the Hamptons or Washington, they all gather and do the same things. And you can't be part of it. And the news media is all focused on what's going on within that world. And what happens in that world happens to be what's happening in America, in their world, except that it isn't. Back in a sec. Folks, I have to tell you, we've got a new procedure at RushLimbaugh.com this year for Christmas. Normally, we offer a free Christmas tree ornament with a news subscription or to Rush 24/7, the website, and a Limbaugh letter. We're doing something different. We're keeping the tumbler, the special Tervis tumbler, as the premium for new subscribers, and the Christmas tree ornaments are better than ever, and they are on sale at the store, the EIB store at RushLimbaugh.com. Oh, this ornament is in honor of 30 incredible years on the radio. These ornaments, they're simply stunning. They are a work of art. There is an American flag proudly placed in the center of the circle with America's Anchorman, the EIB logo. My name is etched around the flag. We got to see these ornaments being hand-forged where they're made right here in America, in Pennsylvania. It was honestly incredible. And you would not believe how many steps are involved in making these quality works of art. You know, I love watching people who are the best at what they do. I love watching them do it. And I'm a production groupie. I'm a logistics groupie. It all starts in the art department with our design, then it goes to the master engraver where it gets cut, then it gets hand hammered, then it's polished. Every single ornament is hand tied with a ribbon for you to hang on your tree. And these are all carefully handmade by Americans. There's no question this ornament this year is a one-of-a-kind collector's piece. And so rather than just make it available to new subscribers, anybody can get one simply by going to rushlimbaugh.com under the store tab. And as brilliantly descriptive as I am, and as capable as I am of creating mental pictures, you still have to see this. And when you look at it, realize they're handmade, they're hand-forged, and they're all produced here in America. See it at rushlimbaugh.com, www.rushlimbaugh.com, under the store tab. The ornaments are handmade. We have a stock of supply here. They're pretty hard to mass produce. That's how special they are. So we've got a current stock here. So make sure you get your order in if you are thinking of getting one this year. rushlimbaugh.com under the store tab. The Senate has confirmed President Trump's 9th federal judge, making America great again. NBC editing Matt Lauer out of the televised coverage of the lighting of the Rockefeller Christmas tree. See you tomorrow, folks. Thanks so much for being with us today.